morning. Last week I showed you how to take a leg or any other part that was basically the form you wanted, but maybe was the wrong length or something. And I showed you some tricks for resizing it and then reusing that part in another design. There are times when a profile is very useful and where you can save parts as profiles, bring them into your SketchUp drawing and extend them or extrude them and use them as components. But to show you how to do that, first I'm going to show you how to bring any SketchUp skip file into your model and use it as a component. For instance, on my desktop I have some files. One of them is called a kitchen. It's a kitchen with a bunch of kitchen cabinets. And then I have two files called a profile. One is called a lock panel, left end panel lock style, and the other one's called a left panel front lock style. I'm going to set them over to the side, but in a moment I'm going to drag and drop them into my SketchUp model, a blank SketchUp model, to show you what happens. So let me just set them over to the side here. And now I'm going to bring back my video. Let's suppose I've designed a table and I want to use it as a component in another drawing. Maybe I'm drawing the insides of a house and I want to put some tables in place. How do I do that? Well, there's a number of ways you can do it. One very simple way is to go to a folder, choose a skip file, any model of anything, and then drag and drop it into your model. Now watch what happens when I do that. I'm going to set this to the side, but I'm going to drag and drop this into my model. Here I go. Notice that there's a little plus sign saying this is a legal thing to do. So I'll just drop it. Try to find out where it is here. There we go. And now I can move it and put it into place, any place I want. Hopefully. There we go. I'm going to place it at the origin. Okay. Now, notice what happened when it did that. I dragged the whole file, a whole model of a bedside table in here. First thing that happened is it gave me a table called bedside table. That name, bedside table, was the name of the file that I dragged onto my desktop. So whatever you name your file, that's the name the component is going to get. Notice also that this is one component. It's actually a hierarchy of components because in the original file, each of these individual parts were a component. So if I explode this, well, before I do that, the other thing I want to show you is I'm going to bring the layers in here. Notice what happened when I brought that in there. It added to my blank untitled SketchUp file, it added all of the layers, all of the dimension layers and everything to my model because I brought an entire model into the picture. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to explode this. Notice when I explode it, you see all the dimensions and everything here. But if I just click outside, all I'm getting is the top view. By the way, let me bring in scenes. Notice it did not bring any scenes from the original drawing in here. If you want scenes, you're going to have to recreate them. But now I can go back to my original drawing. Or not my original drawing, but the drawing that I brought into this model. And you'll notice that if I should get rid of the top will come and go as individual parts. The leg will come and go as individual parts. So that's one way of bringing it in, is to drop the whole file into SketchUp. Another way of doing it, I'm going to go back All right, notice now I've got only layer 0 and nothing in my model. So I just did an undo all the way back to the original blank file. What I'm going to do this time is I'm going to open up that model. So let me bring it up here. And I'm going to open up the bedside table. Here it is right here. I'm going to open this model up. This time I'm going to select the entire model. And I'm going to edit, copy, and I'll just minimize that for the moment. And I'll go to my blank model and I will edit, paste in place. And there it is. Now, when I pasted it in place, it put it in the same place that it was in the other model. Notice this time that it didn't make a component of it. That's because I simply collected all of the components that were in the other model in a selection, and I brought just the components in. Notice also that the only layers that were brought in were the layers that were needed for these components. I didn't get the dimension layers and all the rest of that stuff. So there's a number of ways to bring a component in here. Now let me redo this. Let me go back to the beginning. Make sure I have no layers. I've got a blank untitled SketchUp. And I'm going to go back to my model. And now this time I'm only going to bring one part in. I'm going to bring just the leg in. I'm going to bring this leg right here. Notice where it's sitting, where this model's sitting, by the way. It's not sitting at the origin. I'm going to bring just this one leg in. And I'm going to move it to the origin. And notice what I've got. This time I've only got one layer called legs. And I'm going to move this to layer 0. And I'm going to purge everything out of here except what I need. So it's going to get rid of one layer. I no longer need the legs layer because this is on layer 0. The other thing I might want to do is get rid of the texture here, because what I'm going to do is save this as a leg, a tapered leg file. Having done that, and if I take the texture off, it can now be used as a component for any table. All I have to do is bring it in to my file, into my model, my blank model, or the model I'm working on. So I'm not going to bother taking the texture off right at the moment. I'll just save it like this. But I'll do a file, save as, to my desktop, and I'll just call this Tapered Leg. All right, now I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm back to a blank. In fact, what I really should do is go back here until I can't go back anymore. That's the original file as I opened it. And now what I can do is I've got the tapered leg on my desktop. I can drag that in here. Let me drag the tapered leg in. I'm not sure why this wants to do that, but oh, I know what's going on. That tapered leg was saved from this file. So let me close this file and reopen another one, another blank file. There we go. There we go. Now it's going to let me do it. And now I can place it at the origin. And if I look at my layers, notice it's on layer 0 because that's the way I saved it, layer 0. Now I can assign it any layer that I want in my new model. And I can do tricks like I did last week. I can resize this leg, change the mortises or what have you, but I don't have to redraw the whole leg. I've already got a dovetail socket here. So if I wanted to make this leg shorter or even change the position of the taper, I don't have to redraw the tapers or what have you. I just need to move points around. Okay, so that's one way of saving. You know, once you create a model and you've got parts you think you might use again, save them in a file with a part name, only that part, on layer 0, on textured, and then you can bring them into any model, reshape them like I showed you or resize them like I showed you last week, and use them in another design. It's called repurposing, and SketchUp makes it easy. All right, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to close this. I'm not going to save it. And I'm going to show you something that's even more useful. I'm going to open up a new blank model. Often, if you're doing something like, and I'm going to drag another model in here for the moment, I'm going to drag a whole kitchen in here. This is a cabinet. It's got 2 boxes, 1 face frame. And the face frame, notice right at the moment, it's just square sticks. But suppose what I wanted was, I wanted to put a panel at the end here to hide the plywood that's here. And I wanted to put a face frame here that would lock into the panel style. Well, one of the things I can do is I can create a bunch of profiles of the types of styles that I want to use. Some of them being lock miter joints, some of them being bevel joints, some being butt joints, you name it, any type of joinery. What I could do is, again, drag something in. I'm going to call something a left. I showed you before the left panel front style, lock style. I'm going to drag that in here. Notice it's a component because of the way I dragged it in. I dragged it in by dragging an entire file in here. I probably want to explode this, but I'll keep it a component for the moment. In the original file, it's not a component. It's just primitives. It's primitives drawn exactly like this in the original file. And when I dragged the whole file in, it made it a component. Had I gone to the file, opened it up, and selected the primitives and brought those in, copied them and pasted them in place, I wouldn't have had a component here. In fact, I'm going to show you that right now. What I'll do is I'll go back and eliminate that. I'm going to open up this there it is. That's actually not the one I wanted. Oh, I could bring this one in anyway. This is it's a mating style. I'm going to need that one too, so we'll go ahead and bring this one in. But notice in this file, these are primitives, not a component. So one way I can do this is select this, copy it, paste it in place, and it's going to put it at the origin because it's at the origin in its original file. So I'll paste it in place. There it is at the origin. Now I can pick it up move it to that point right there. I'm going to push pull, bring it to that point, and now I'm going to make it a component. And I'm not going to worry about the name I give it at the moment. I'll just call it right end panel style. Okay, now what I'm going to do is open up the other one. Select the entire thing, copy it, get it out of the way, paste in place, and I know it's going to paste it at the origin because it was at the origin in its original file. Pick it up at the origin, bring it over here, put it right there. This time I'm going to delete this component. Now I'm going to oh, wait a moment. Remember when I brought this kitchen in, I just dragged the file in, which means it made this whole kitchen a component. Let me explode that so that I got individual parts. There. Now, I hope my profile is at the bottom of that. And it is. So now I can delete just this style. Bring it up to the top of this one. Make it a component. And I'll call it the left end style. Left end of the face frame. And what I have to do now is move this one into place. Let me get the right part. And now I have a lock miter joint here on my face frame. I've got a dado here in the style. So what I can do now is drag another profile back here that also has a dado, and I could drag some rails in that have the profiles for rails and put my panel in. And so I've got a reusable piece of profile. And if I were making cabinets that were shorter than this, it's just a matter of push-pulling the profiles to a different distance or a different height or whatever. So by using these profiles, these 2D primitive profiles in files that I save somewhere in a folder, and then just copying them and pasting them in place and then moving them to where the desired position, I can make almost any part I want, provided it's a part that simply has a profile that can be extruded. And so they're very handy. Okay, and by the way, I could take this part, copy it, flip it along the, I guess the red direction, and I could put it on this end and put another panel down here, if I so wanted. And I could do the same with the one in the back. So these are very useful ways of using profiles to create parts quickly and inserting them in your drawing. Okay, that sort of ends the trick for this week, or the tricks for this week, and I'll see you next week with a few more.